So let me get this straight. Congress passes the budget, the president signs it into law, and somehow Elon Musk still gets to decide who gets fired and what programs get gutted? That's not reform. That's a constitutional crisis hiding behind buzzwords.
I'm not going to ask questions about specific issues about which I'm very concerned. I subscribe, frankly, to the remarks that Mr. Lauro, our ranking member, made, however, Mr. Secretary, with reference to my concerns about what is happening. First of all, let me ask you this.
Sorry about that.
You submit a budget, it goes to OMB, the president will submit it to us, and Congress passes a budget, sends it to the president, presumably the president signs it. Once that happens, do you consider that budget that Congress passes to be a suggestion or directive?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's the president's budget, and my duty is to defend it. It's Congress's choice about whether or not they're going to fund. The Congress appropriates the funding. Congressman, there's no agency head that I know of that wants to see his agency gutted or his budget lowered. There's tremendous waste in my agency. It grew by 38% during the Biden administration, and public health went down.
Okay, I got 5 minutes.
But I just say this. President Trump has a broader vision than me, which is that the $2 trillion we're spending a year that we don't have is landing on our children. That is a health crisis for them.
Mr. Secretary, my question to you respectfully was, do you believe it is a suggestion or a mandate? This is a very important issue, which we differ greatly with the administration and with Mr. Musk, that willy-nilly, without Congress's approval, they can remove things, take things away, defund things, fire people. That is not my proposition. I want to know whether it is your proposition. You've answered in the sense that once the budget is adopted, you need to carry it out. Now, whether that was President Trump that signed that budget or President Biden that signed that budget, I presume your premise is the same. Is that correct?
I don't know whether you're asking me a rhetorical question, because I think it's self-evident.
It's not a rhetorical question. It's whether or not you think once the Congress says we're going to spend X number of dollars on X objective, Y objective, that you will follow that.
Yes.
Okay, that's the answer I wanted.
Incidentally, that happens throughout history. A Republican.
Throughout history, Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, you and I know this. Mr. Nixon said that was not the law. That he could take whatever and he took it as a suggestion, and he wanted to impound, and he did impound in the early 70s, and we passed an act that said you can't do that. Then the Supreme Court heard that case. And very frankly, one of the most conservative judges, Justice Scalia, said President Nixon, the Mahatma Gandhi of all impounders, asserted at a press conference in 1973 that his constitutional right to impound appropriated funds was absolutely clear. Scalia went on to say, our decision 2 years later in Train versus City of New York proved him wrong. That opinion has been reiterated by the Supreme Court subsequent to that decision. This is a critically important issue because there are conflicting opinions. We will try to come to consensus on that. The president has to sign the budget unless we override his veto of the budget. That becomes the law. We think, and a lot of courts over the last 2 months have decided that law is not being followed. So that was my point. Now, let me ask you something. You've reduced the department by 20,000 people, as I understand it. You've been quoted as saying some of those firings were mistakes. In fact, of course, Musk fired 70% of the people when he bought Twitter and then brought a large number of them back because he found out, as you point out, not that with respect to that, but with respect to these 20,000 people, there were mistakes. My question to you is, have you had an analysis prior to making those decisions or Mr. Musk making those decisions? And I ask you first, who made those decisions, you or Musk?
They were made. Ultimately, we executed the decisions.
I know you executed them, but my question is,
Elon Musk gave us help in figuring out where there was waste, fraud, and abuse in the department. But it was up to me to make the decision. And there are many instances where I pushed back and said, we don't want to, that would hurt us to eliminate that group.
Let me ask you a question based upon that response. Was there an analysis of the consequences of these cuts and the reduction in force and elimination of programs? Was there an analysis that you can provide the committee that indicated those, as you concluded in your statement, would not harm people would not undermine, frankly, the people who are being served, the health care not delivered, people not served, children not educated, research not accomplished, frankly, lives not saved. Is there an analysis that you can provide to this committee prior to us determining the budget that will show that, in fact, those cuts will not be harmful to those objectives?
Yeah, there were analysis. The simplest analysis was at the outset, the analysis that we're spending $2 trillion a year that we don't have.
Mr. Musk said he was going to cut $2 trillion.
$2 trillion more than you have to make cuts. The other analysis that was more detailed is that
children or the Indians that you're so concerned about?
we didn't cut the Indians. We didn't cut the Indian services.
I'm asking you, you said we have to cut.
I made sure that those services were not cut. I made sure that Head Start was not cut. But the cuts that were done were cuts that were to duplication, to redundancy, to streamlining. We increased our workforce 70% in 4 years, so we were going back to the 2019 levels.
Mr. Reagan,
and I would ask.
Mr. Reagan said he was going to cut waste, fraud, and abuse. He increased the budget deficit by 189%, the highest of any president in history.
No analysis.
We're allotted 5 minutes, and I am trying to be lenient, instead of cutting somebody off in mid-sentence. But if y'all could be respectful to me, so that we can sort of wrap up when I start tapping. So,
What Steny Hoyer did in this exchange wasn't theater. It was a masterclass in constitutional accountability. He didn't yell, he didn't posture, and he didn't chase sound bites. He methodically cornered Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the single most dangerous idea floating through this administration right now: the belief that laws passed by Congress are optional if a billionaire advisor doesn't like them. This moment mattered because it cut through the distraction. Hoyer wasn't debating vaccines or ideology. He was asking a foundational question every American should care about. When Congress passes a budget and the president signs it, is that law a suggestion or a mandate? Because if it's a mandate, then what we're seeing across federal agencies isn't reform. It's illegal impoundment dressed up as efficiency. Hoyer reminded the room of something Republicans and this administration would rather Americans forget. We already fought this fight. Nixon tried to impound funds Congress had appropriated. Congress passed the Impoundment Control Act. The Supreme Court upheld it. Even Justice Scalia, hardly a liberal icon, made it crystal clear: presidents do not get to ignore spending laws. Period. End of story. That's why the Musk question landed like a hammer. When RFK Jr. admitted that Elon Musk was helping identify cuts, the entire facade collapsed. Because Elon Musk is not confirmed by the Senate. He doesn't swear an oath to the Constitution. He's accountable to no voter, no committee, no law. Yet here he is, shaping decisions that affect children's health programs, public research, and life-saving services. And when RFK Jr. was pressed on whether there was any serious impact analysis, any documented evidence showing these mass firings wouldn't cost lives, delay care, or dismantle essential programs, there was nothing. No study, no report, just vague references to duplication and a talking point about spending levels. That's not governance. That's recklessness. Democrats understand something this administration either doesn't grasp or doesn't care about. Budgets are moral documents. When you fire tens of thousands of public health workers without analysis, you are gambling with real people's lives. When you let an unelected billionaire influence those decisions, you are eroding democratic control itself. This is why democratic oversight matters. This is why hearings matter. And this is why elections matter. Because the alternative is a government where Congress votes, courts rule, and none of it matters if someone rich enough says otherwise.